All right, good morning, folks. Thank you for attending today. Appreciate you joining. Excited to have you here and excited to talk a little bit about ground-mounted solar and a little bit as well about the Smart Energy Company. We've got a guest today with us who's going to talk a little bit about his business and his experience with solar energy, and in particular with our ground-mounted solar solution. So one of the things, just running through the agenda today, so we're going to share information about our company, the Smart Energy Company, talk about how ground-mounted solar can benefit energy users in Atlantic Canada. As mentioned, we're going to have a discussion with Peter Powning, one of our solar customers, and Peter recently invested in a ground-mounted solar solution for his business, Powning Designs. We're going to discuss his experience in particular with solar energy, both roof and ground mounted, as he does also have a roof mounted system. We expect it to be about 30 minutes, and we'll respond to questions as they are submitted. So please use the Q&A tab that's available for you, and feel free to ask questions as we go through here. In addition, this is being recorded. So after this webinar, we'll send an email to you with a link to where you can access the recording. And encourage you to share it with other people if you feel that they'd have an interest in discussing it or reviewing it or understand a little bit more about it as well. So about the Smart Energy Company, who are we and what's our background? So we're an engineering, procurement, and construction firm. We specialize in the development of solar energy solutions for businesses throughout the province of New Brunswick. We've been operating since 2016, and this map shows our solar installations throughout New Brunswick. We've installed about half of all the grid-tied solar in New Brunswick, and this totals about 1 megawatt of installed solar generating capacity. We're the only proven deployment-based utility-grade solar provider in the province, and recently we were just awarded a project in Shediac with NB Power and Smart Grid Atlantic to implement a 1.63 megawatt solar farm, which is pretty sizable and exciting for us. So we're really looking forward to that project. One of the things that's a focus area for us is really research and development and R&D, and it's in our DNA, and it's really part of our mandate as well. And we're proud this year to have launched NOREASTER. That's our flagship solar energy product, and it's built specifically for the Atlantic Canadian climate. So we've really engineered it to withstand the elements here that we experience in our province. And there's more about those products and that the packages that we've made available, the NOREASTER packages, on our website. So why ground mount? That's kind of the key focus for the webinar here today is, why is it key to us and why do we focus on it? We are advocates for it, and there's a reason why most of the projects we work on are ground mount systems. Ground mounted solar provides a quick, non-invasive installation approach and really minimizes the engineering variables that you'd experience with a solar implementation. You're going to have higher energy production in comparison to other solar installations. One of those key reasons is we can position it perfectly south, and that allows us to capture as much solar energy or as much light energy as possible. Also allowing us to optimize the system for winter performance. So we've optimized it by having the tilt angle adjusted to a level where snow that collects after a snowfall slides off pretty readily. So that's something that most of our customers who have had snowfall land on their panels that they've experienced, they come off quite readily. The other thing that is key to ground-mounted solar is what's called bifacial solar panels. This is one of the big advantages of ground-mounted systems, and is a relatively recent performance or product improvement. And bifacial solar panels are really as they're described. So they generate energy on both the front and the back side of the solar panel. And what this means is you're capturing energy on the front and the back of the panel, and the front occurs from clearly access to the sun in general, and then on the back you're getting a reflection off either snow or the ground. So you've got a reflective effect happening off of snow, or also happens off of foliage. So, grass or whatever aggregate you have underneath the solar panel has reflective properties, so you will get energy produced. So it's really a significant increase in energy production. And we were now utilizing bifacial panels in all of our ground mounted systems, and including for our system that we introduced and installed for Powning Designs. So Powning Designs, let's talk a little bit about Peter's company. And Peter Powning has lived and worked as an artist in Southern New Brunswick since 1970 with his wife, Beth Powning, who's an accomplished author. Peter's an award-winning sculptor and ceramist who's completed several high-profile public commissions across Canada, and whose artwork is shown internationally. Beth Powning has written novels such as The Sea Captain's Wife, A Measure of Light, and others. And her most recent novel, which was just released, The Sister's Tale, currently sits on the Global Mail bestsellers list. So want to really hand it over a little bit to Peter today. So Peter's joined us to talk about Powning Designs' experience with solar energy. So thanks for joining, Peter. And maybe you could give us some thoughts about why solar for your company. And I know you've got core values that align pretty well with investing in solar, and maybe talk about why it was a great fit for Powning Designs.
Right. We, like everybody, or pretty much everybody, has environmental concerns, and with climate change and the late stage at which we're beginning to grapple with it, we felt more and more pressed to move ahead with solar. We have a small solar installation on our barn. So we already had some solar, but nowhere near enough to cover all our energy use. We have fairly intensive energy use because of electric kilns and annealers for glass and ceramics. So this was just a great solution for that. And we've always, a key element of what we're trying to do is to get to net zero or better. And we asked for a system that would get us there, and it looks like it's doing that. And it was the next logical step. Our buildings are all efficient, and we've done a lot of work on them. We got electric car and have done a lot of other things. So this was the next obvious step. We've been putting it off, hoping that there would be grants in New Brunswick, and that the prices would come down. Prices did come down. The grants did not arrive, but we felt it was really important to get going now. We're feeling the pressure of climate change and our obligations, really.
All right, that's great insight. Thanks, Peter. It's great to see local businesses promoting and adopting environmentally responsible practices, and seeing leaders like yourself really kind of drive forward. So that's great.
One other thing, I didn't talk about the cost. In fact, this produces electricity cheaper than what we're all paying now, or paying before, with MB Power. So, I mean, that really made it a no-brainer in terms of an investment, a long-term investment, because it's a fair amount of money up front, but it's paying better dividends than if we put it in T-bills or whatever. So it was a good business choice financially, as well as being seen to be, as well as being responsible, environmentally responsible. And I think that's a key thing for a lot of businesses now.
Yeah, that's a great point. Thanks, Peter, for adding that. Clearly there's an economic benefit, but in addition to that kind of social equity benefit and really the consumer demand for companies to focus on sustainability, I think the economics need to work too, which is it's great to hear that that's your experience, and that's what we would expect from customer implementations too. So just some context about Powning Designs system. They have a 22.8 kilowatt ground mounted solar array on his property in Markhamville in the province. It consists of about 60 bifacial panels and produces over 28,000 kilowatt hours each year. And this is generally what would be required to power an average household. Because the system's grid tied or connected to NB Power's energy network, Peter not only powers his home and business with solar energy, he also feeds energy back into the grid in exchange for energy credits and uses those credits in off-peak solar hours when solar is not generating energy. So the whole system is really using NB Power's grid through their net metering program as a battery effectively. So maybe some questions, Peter, about your specific experience in setting up or implementing the system for Powning Designs. Historically, a major selling point for ground-mounted solar in general has been kind of the simplicity of the installation. The foundation is set with what are called ground screws. Now, these are a lot easier than putting in sonotubes or other anchoring systems. So previously we used concrete blocks as well, but these systems are really great in terms of getting the solar array ready for a level setup and leveling the ground over uneven terrain. These ground screws go into between about 5 to 9 feet and allows the system to really be readily assembled. So Peter, kind of in your experience, what did you take away from the complexity installation and how it went up for you, and maybe a bit of feedback on that from your setup?
Right. Two things. First of all, this 60 panel system takes care of our entire business, our vehicle, and our home. So I don't know what an average house does, but we've got a 4-bedroom, fairly large 4-bedroom house that was built in the 1800s. So it's taking care of that, plus a large studio and other equipment. And so getting back to your question about the installation was fascinating for me. It was out in the field. It did not disrupt anything I was doing except for my own need to go and look because I was curious. It's on a slope, not a steep slope, but those ground screws amazed me. I've done a certain amount of construction and a lot of sculpture installation using foundations. I've never seen a simpler process. A bobcat with an attachment came out and screwed these things into the ground. They were getting 8 feet deep in an area with a lot of kind of bouldery, gravelly substrata under the topsoil, and it didn't seem to cause any problems. And once the screw was in, the grass was around it. There's no dirt, there's no mess. I was very impressed with that. And the rest of it's pretty much like an erector set. It's all prefabbed, and they bolt it all together and put it up. Went quite quickly. Usually just 2 people working. All the cabling is underground to the building, so there are no wires running around. It's about, I think it's 175 feet or so from the building. We positioned it so it was out of the way. Nothing's going to run into it. So the whole process was really simple and trouble-free. I mean, it was just great, really.
Yeah, that's excellent. That's great to hear. And what about, my understanding was you didn't have downtime for your operation when this happened. It was really just you had a cutover at the end once it went live, but there was no period of time where you were kind of out of operation.
No, not at all. As I say, the only downtime I had was running out and asking questions and watching the process, but that was fun.
Right. Yeah. Excellent. Okay. All right. That's great. The other thing we talked about, and I think you alluded to it earlier, was the impact to your power bills. So one of the key benefits of solar energy in general for any business owner is how it impacts what you pay for power. So the system is, Peter, you mentioned it, it's like an erector set sort of, but it's a little bit like, it is modular, and you can add sections of NOREASTERs, our ground mounted solar system. You can add them as you need and really build the system to reflect your energy demands. And there's a couple objectives for people. One is to reduce their power bill, or others similar to Peter's operation is to really become net zero or have no energy or utility bill at all. Your system was commissioned not too long ago, and we wanted to see how the impact to your power bill has been over the long term. So can you share a little bit of insight about what you've been seeing so far? And the other thing too is how, and this is, it's a good question, but I think you've experienced it, is how you can identify, or how you see how the system is generating electricity.
Okay, well, just kind of a quick picture. We are building credits now. Our power bill is zero. There's the NB Power still has the connection fee, but that's $24 a month or something like that. And our situation is a bit more complex because we've got 3 different meters running on it. It'd just be one. So I watch what's going on through software from, I think it's Solaris. And so I can see exactly what's going on out there. I can see what's happening now. I can get a weekly, monthly, annual graphs that show how much power is being generated. And you can become a bit obsessive with that if you're so minded. I did for a while, but now I'm realizing there's life to be led beyond watching the graphs on my screen. And the power bills are, it's lovely getting our usually large power bills and having zero, not only zero power used, but getting credits that we'll be applying probably late November, December, and January. So it's working as predicted. We won't know. We didn't really get online till mid-December, so we'll have an idea by December whether we're meeting our goals. But looks like we're just about exactly where we'd expect to be this time of year.
Yeah, that's excellent. It's great to hear. The other thing that we talk about is once you've invested in a NOREASTER ground-mounted system, you're really locking your power into the current, or to whatever the cost of your system is, which will be at below utility rates. And you're really, I guess, defending and protecting yourself against utility rate increases, which we see on an annual basis. We'll see the rate increase, and that's happened over the last 10 years. We've seen, I think, an average of about 2.5% is what we've seen annually in terms of increase. So kind of defending against that experience.
Yeah, I think that was a selling point because right now it's costing us a bit less than it would if we were online, but that's just going to get better and better.
Yeah. Excellent. Yeah. And this thing, the environmental impact, we mentioned this at the outset here, but it's really, Powning Designs as an organization are passionate about environmental issues and have invested in other green technologies in the past. So you've got a roof mounted system that your company invested in a while ago. But your system reduces reliance on traditional energy sources, as we mentioned, and solar in general does that. So you're moving away from using other traditional sources of energy, such as the fuels that are used to generate power through your utility, which are in a lot of cases are carbon emitting. So solar is, and the system, your system in general, reduces about 8 tons of carbon emissions, carbon dioxide emissions each year. So why is carbon reduction something business owners and corporations in New Brunswick should care about, Peter, just from, kind of from your experience as a business owner, but also maybe what you're seeing with some of the other businesses that you operate with in the province?
Yeah, there's a lot to unpack here. My personal motivation is I've got grandkids. I know our generation is leaving them a big mess. I want to be part of the solution, not continue to be part of the problem. I think the other thing to point out here is obviously solar is a lot cleaner than what we've been getting through our power lines from NB Power. But in our case, also, we've installed mini splits, so we're heating the house and the business with electricity, and that is that's been a recent development. We heated the studio and the house with wood beforehand, which come to find out isn't such an environmentally friendly fuel after all. We kind of bought into the idea that it was, and it doesn't appear to be now. So I think from a business point of view too, I know when I'm competing for commissions across the country, one of my talking points is that I do carbon neutral installations. So that includes where it's made in the studio. And we also buy credits for materials and transportation and all that stuff to try to have as little environmental impact as possible with projects. And that actually, I think, probably in a much broader sense, it's good business, it's a good selling point. You're getting ahead of the game, because eventually, if you aren't doing that, you're going to fall behind or get forced to. So it just feels right to be approaching this the way we are. And I find it, I feel a personal sense of urgency about that. If you're paying attention to what's going on, you probably are too.
Yeah, that's great. I mean, that's exactly what we're seeing, Peter. And, a couple of things to kind of add on to that. Many of the companies we're dealing with today are, they're not only looking for economic benefits, but there's two things that we're seeing in industry and across the board in different industries is one, that consumers are demanding that organizations have a plan around carbon reduction, and a tangible plan, one that they're saying that is meaningful and it's not just lip service. So that is really becoming or coming to the forefront. And because of that, we're seeing organizations set specific targets that are, again, meaningful targets. And at a C level, a lot of organizations we deal with are being measured on that. And they would have a balanced scorecard. And one of those metrics that executives are rated against is how well the company's done in hitting those carbon reduction targets. So, it's going to go farther, but we're seeing that's a bit of a shift here, and it's driving demand. As I mentioned, it's not just economic; those benefits are clear, but it's also the demand to address organizations specifically to achieve carbon neutrality overall. Next question is around maintenance and what you've seen in terms of maintaining it. We've designed it to be low maintenance in general and to avoid any complexity to an organization once we set it up. So the last thing we want to do is introduce a system where it's another item to manage. So we've engineered it and built it, as I mentioned, for our climate, and also really removed any moving pieces out of the system. And that was kind of by design to say we wanted to simplify it. We do some regular maintenance activities, but it's more inspection based, and we're not tuning it in general. But we do inspect it just to make sure things are operating well, and there's maybe minor adjustments needed, such as tightening of screws. So Peter, kind of from your perspective, what's it been like having this on your property, and managing it in general, and what's the experience been there?
Well, one of the interesting things is because we have a roof-mounted system to compare it to, the ground-mounted system sheds snow much quicker and sooner than the roof-mounted system. And I think there are a number of reasons. If it was the same system mounted on the roof, it would have the problem of snow coming from above it and getting hung up on the roof below it, so it wouldn't clear as easily. I think the angle, however, of the ground-mounted system is, as Joe says, it's designed to shed snow as well as get the optimum insulation. So it's, as far as I can see, it's zero maintenance on our part. The snow comes off as soon as there's a tiny patch showing it warms up, and it just slides off. So that is clearly not going to be a problem. The other thing I thought might be a problem is snow sliding off and building up at the bottom of it and beginning to build up a big mound there. And rather than that, in fact, you can see in this picture, the ground is frequently bare at the bottom of it, and I'm assuming that's because it's generating some heat that's just making the snow around it melt. So that was good. And as Joe said, also, it's designed to be no maintenance in terms of the owner. And to begin with, when we first set it up, they made a few little changes. As if they just showed up, they're monitoring the system. They saw something needed doing. They were out and did it, went away. I wouldn't have mattered if I'd noticed them or not. So that all looks good. There's an annual maintenance fee, but it's low, and it means I don't have to worry about it.
Yeah, that's great. Thank you, Peter. We're, to your point about monitoring, that's one of the things that we kind of take pride in, is to make sure we're on top of things. And if something, in the kind of unlikely event that something goes wrong, that, we're proactively looking at that and responding. So that's great to hear. All right. That's it. Thank you very much, Peter. Really appreciate you joining today and sharing your experience with solar energy for Powning Designs. Also want to thank the attendees today, and hope you enjoyed the presentation and listening to Peter's perspective on solar, and allowing us to share some information about our products. I mentioned at the outset that we'll be posting this to our website, and you can look for an email that's going to come that references this. Lastly, please reach out to me with any questions, or if you'd like to further discuss NOREASTER, and in general, our solar portfolio in general for your business. You can also go to solarfarming.ca on our website, and you can actually build your own NOREASTER and see what it would look like, and identify that and kind of size it out based on your needs, and actually place it on a location in the address that you put in. So that's it. Thank you very much. Have a great day, and take care.